Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everything is going well for you. I'm having a good morning here. Um, I've taken a couple days in between this and the last video to try to decide where to go next, and I was thinking about it. I'm going to just show you the problem, and then we'll kind of solve it together. So I'm going to log in as admin and password. And then I'm going to go over here to the logo, and I'm going to go to the new student menu. And I think we've pointed this out before, but see, Bob Smith is his RFID tag is 5678. So if I were to go to Janet Smith and do 5678, that's allowable right now, and so that's a problem. You can't have two RFIDs having the same number. Now, I mean, from a technical perspective, when you get these things, they're all unique, but we wanna prevent that from happening. Now, the form builder itself does not have a way to make that happen, and so I think this is a really good learning experience. Now, what I was going to do was go in there and modify the form builder and just fix that before you ever got this video, but I decided I'm not going to do that. I may make that feature later, but the big thing I want you to understand is that the vast majority of coding is problem solving. My friend Curtis Parham told me that a big part of it is Googling. Like, you have this idea of these coders sitting in layers or sitting in fancy offices and just pounding away on their keyboard, and really a lot of it is Googling and going to Stack Overflow and trying to figure out how to solve problems. And so what we're going to do is, as developers, you don't always have access to go in there and change the source code like this. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find a way around that problem. So what we're going to do, if you look at this thing here, what's happening is they fill out this form and the form gets submitted. And in PHP, that basically means that it's going to this post thing. So basically we have this if statement here that says, hey, somebody's trying to submit a form. Now, we have the ability to do stuff before this information is put into the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of debugging. Now, one of the tools that we have, and we've used it in some of the earlier things, is the dump command. And the dump command is super handy because it's going to allow us to see what is inside of that post. Okay? So we're going to fill the form out again, and it doesn't really matter, but we'll put this one in there again, and we'll make up a new name, and we'll say James Smith, and then we're going to submit it. And you'll see that what happened was it just went straight through and added it. Now, the reason why it added it was because it did dump it. It did display this to the screen, but when it processed the form, it put it in the database, and then it redirected the page. So in other words, before you could ever see what information was here, the page got refreshed and this student added message was popped up here and all that stuff. So there's another command that we can do, and it's D&D. And D&D stands for dump and die. And this is a user space specific command. If you were not using user space, you would do var dump post, and you would get that ugly one, and then you would do something like this, put die, and you would just tell it separately that you want it to die. You don't actually need these. You can use them, but you don't have to have them. So I shorten that up, and basically when you do D&D, you get a nicely formatted display of what was in the data, and the page is going to die at this point. So in other words, it's never even going to get to the point where you're processing the form. So whatever happens here won't ever go into the database. So we're going to go to Jamie Smith. I have a friend named Jamie. He's probably not watching this video right now. He's more of a car guy. So we're going to submit, and you're going to see what happened is we are given this thing. So this is a security token. We'll get into this a little bit later. But basically we have an array. And you learned about arrays a couple videos back. We have an array of all the data, and one of the things that we have is the RFID thing that we submitted. So this gives us an opportunity. Now again, there's a lot of different ways we could solve this problem, but we are going to do it this way. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it just like when we were back over here on the other one. I'm going to get this out of the way. Just like when we were in student search and we did this input get thing here, we're going to do that over here. So we're going to say, and I like to keep my variables the same. So I like to go RFID equals input get RFID. Okay. And so what's happening is this is this. So this is the key of the array, and we're going to say, so in fact, I'm just going to show you if we were to D&D RFID. So you would come in here and we'll refresh the page. I need to hit the refresh button. And we're going to submit it, and now you'll see that the only thing that's being dumped is RFID. So now we know what RFID badge they were trying to upload. So what we're going to do is we are going to mash together a simple query. So if you look at the database, you can see that we have this column over here where all these things are being stored. So what we're going to do is we're going to write a one-line query to find out how many people already have the RFID tag that we are trying to submit. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to call it check because we're trying to check. And this is just a good reminder to me that we're doing some kind of little check here before we do this information. So check equals DB for the database query. Now we've already said that what that means is we are going to go to the database and we're going to ask it a question. And whatever answer it gives us, we're going to store in the check variable. So we're going to say select. Now we could do star would give us everything, or we can just select RFID. It doesn't really matter, but we could even just do ID. It doesn't really, and I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to do star here just to, we're going to say give me everything from the table students. In fact, you can even see in PHP my admin, it has it up there. So from students where, and I just like writing these in all caps. You don't have to, but I just think it makes it easier to see, where RFID equals, and then we're going to do that question mark thing. And what basically happens here with the question mark is it forces the search to only look in this column right here. And there's some security things that are going on there that we'll get into later. But so anyway, so what we're going to do, and because you could pass as many, you could do where RFID equals this and this and this, you know, and all this stuff, we're going to put this in there. It has to be an array, and we're going to do RFID. And right now I'm just going to put a semicolon there so you can see it. So what we're doing is we are saying go to the database and query it. And what you're going to do is you're going to give me everything from the students table where the RFID equals whatever they submitted on the form. Now, we don't really care about the data. Like we're just trying to find out, does anyone else have this RFID number? So we're going to do one more thing, and we're going to do an arrow, and we're going to write count. Okay, and so what this is going to do is this is going to tell us how many rows have that. It's not going to give us the data anymore. It's just going to say how many rows already have that one. So we're going to do D&D check. Okay, and so we're going to come back to our form, and I'm going to refresh the page, and I'm going to tell it submit again, and it gave us 3, and that makes sense because we already have 3 people who have that RFID tag. Now, is that acceptable? Is it acceptable to have 3 people have the same RFID badge, and then we're in the process of adding a 4th? No. So what we want to do is we want to write what they call a nested if statement. So we have this statement here that says basically the only reason this code is ever going to run is if somebody submitted the form, and that makes perfect sense. But now what happens is we don't want to process the form, and we don't want to direct them to a new page if somebody already has that RFID assigned. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to write an if statement, and we're going to say if count is less than 1. Okay, and we're going to wrap this in here. So I'm going to space this out a little bit, sorry. Okay, so this is the only thing we're worried about right here, this statement here. So, sorry, and it's not count, it's check. You saw that. I know you saw it. You got to yell at your monitor and tell me that I'm making a mistake so I don't look like an idiot. So, in other words, if there's 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't want this to run. But if the check is less than 1, which is 0, and I could just easily put equals 0, but I just like to put less than 1. And so if the check is less than 0 or less than 1, we're going to process the form and redirect. Else, we're not going to redirect because we don't want to actually clear out the form. And so what we're going to do is we are going to, let's try this. We're going to try typing error, which should be a function. And we're going to put, and this may not work, to be honest. I'm doing this off the top of my head. This RFID code is already in use, and you can change this for your own thing. So we're going to see what happens. So we don't have any dies going on here. We're going to come here, we're going to refresh the page again, and okay, now student added was there because that was already we got to think about the best way to do that. I don't think that'll be a problem normally, but we'll see. So basically what it's doing is saying that the student let's think about that. So we'll come back to this part, but we're going to put student not added. This RFID is already in use. Okay. So let's get rid of this thing. Let's get rid of the student added for now. You'll see it at the bottom of the thing. We'll come back to that. And then we're going to save it. And so now if I were to come here and click this, we still have the student added. And I think that's because the page hadn't refreshed. So let's do it from scratch. So you'll see it did not add any more, but we're going to do one more time. We're going to do Joshua Smith, lots of J's in the Smith family. And we're going to type 5, 6, 7, 8, and we're going to submit it, and it's going to say student not added. This code is already in use. Now, if I were to change this to 9 and submit, then we didn't get any kind of message, but we have this thing saying that where they're in the database. So we'll come back and we'll make a little bit more positive thing to tell you that they were actually added successfully. But that's one way, and that's the thing about coding, is there's a lot of different ways to solve problems, but we took something that this feature wasn't available in UserSpice, and we just made our own way around it without having to edit any of the UserSpice code. We didn't hack anything. We added a simple if statement to make sure that it did exactly what we wanted it to do.